We're live in Liverpool at the end of the Eurovision Song Contest, hosted on behalf of Ukraine.
We have a winner!
It's Loreen. It's Loreen. She's
Of Sweden, becoming the first woman to win Eurovision twice. But in a reminder of why the UK is hosting, reports that just before Ukraine's entry took to the stage, Russia launched a missile attack on the group's home city of Ternopil. We'll have the very latest on that and more on the contest here in Liverpool.
And the other main stories in the programme. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been visiting Italy for talks with the Pope and political leaders there. Voters go to the polls in Turkey in the next few hours in elections which could see the end of President Erdogan's long rule.
Hello from Liverpool, where Loreen of Sweden has just won the Eurovision Song Contest, being hosted here on behalf of Ukraine because of Russia's invasion. And tonight there are reports that Russian missiles hit the home city of the band representing Ukraine moments before they went on stage. We'll have more on the contest itself in a moment. First, let's get the very latest on those reports from our correspondent Helena Wilkinson, who joins me from the newsroom. What do we know, Helena?
Well, Jane, we had these reports coming into the newsroom in the last couple of hours or so, as you've just mentioned there. The city from where the Ukrainian entry to the Eurovision Song Contest came under Russian attack. Missiles were fired onto the city, and we understand from the mayor of the city, which is in the west of Ukraine, it's called Ternopil, that missile attack happened just minutes before the Ukrainian entry. That act went onto the stage to perform Heart of Steel. We've also heard from the British ambassador to Ukraine. She is called Dame Melinda Simmons. She has also said that the university hometown of the Ukrainian act came under a Russian missile attack, and also described the Ukrainian entry as poignant, and goes on to say that it's a reminder that the reason why Russia could not host this event is because Russia continues to invade and the people of Ukraine live in continuing danger. So those reports in the last couple of hours that the Ukrainian city from where the Ukrainian entry at the Eurovision Song Contest are from, it came under missile attack in the last couple of hours. No comment, no official comment from Russia yet.
Helena, thank you. Helena Wilkinson there with the latest. Well, in terms of the contest itself, the evening began with a surprise appearance by the Princess of Wales. She played the piano during the performance by last year's winners, Kalush Orchestra. Our arts correspondent David Silito was watching.
Live from Liverpool, this is the grand final of the Eurovision Song Contest 2023.
It began with last year's winners, the Kalush Orchestra and Stephanie. There was, as promised, a strong Ukrainian flavour to this Liverpool Eurovision. The opening, an artful blend of Ukrainian Eurovision tunes and some very British elements, including the piano skills of the Princess of Wales. And then it was down to the songs with the familiar Eurovision spread of styles. We got Epic from Sweden's Loreen, the hot favourite. Finland brought Manic Energy. Croatia brought Bombs and Underpants. And the last of the 26 songs, the UK's own May Muller. And the cheer at the end, they better check the rivets on the arena roof after that.
Well, the Muller quarter is going wild.
And the interval act, a celebration of Liverpool. It's not often the show has to have a pause to wipe away the tears.
A tear in my silly old eye. You don't do that every day.
Sweden took an early lead
243 points. We have a winner.
and stayed there. May came a disappointing 25th, but the UK definitely did have one winner on the night, Liverpool. David Solito, BBC News.
Well, this evening's musical spectacular was watched by an estimated global TV audience of 180 million. Here in Liverpool, people who weren't lucky enough to get a ticket to the arena packed into the open-air fan zone behind me, here on the city's waterfront. And our entertainment correspondent, Colin Patterson, spent the evening with them.
This was a Eurovision party for the ages. The UK fans were amongst the least confident.
Where do we think it's going to finish? Between 1 and 26?
Top left-hand side, for sure. Left-hand side. Yeah, it's got to be left-hand.
Time for the contest to begin, and even the Eurovision theme turned into a mass sing-along.
There are 15,000 people here watching Eurovision on this screen. The first act, Austria, are up. Let's find out what they made of it. It's gone down well. It has gone down well. We're about to hear Sweden, who are the favourites for this. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes down.
Absolutely amazing.
How did you do? Finland are on next. I suspect he might enjoy it. Let's go! How do you think he did?
He did well. Very nice. I love Finland. I love Kääriä. Cha-cha-cha. All good. It's crazy. It's party.
It's the last song of the night. It's the UK. It's May Muller. And they are ready. How did May Muller do?
I thought she did amazingly. His last song, so it sticks in your mind.
And she's done it again tonight in 2023.
And then finally, the result. Eurovision is over, but for Liverpool and Ukraine, this has been a week which will not be forgotten. Colin Patterson, BBC News.
Well, this weekend does mark the end of a hugely successful week here in Liverpool. Sell-out crowds at all the arena shows and a real buzz wherever you go in the city. But of course, in the last hour, we have had that reminder of just why the UK has been this year's host of Eurovision, with reports of that missile strike in western Ukraine. But for now, from all of the team here in Liverpool tonight, it's back to Ben in the studio.
Jane, thank you very much indeed. And in the last hour or so, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has landed in Germany for a visit there. Earlier, he was in Italy to meet the Pope and political leaders. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has promised to supply more weapons and cash to Ukraine, but that promise is not universally supported by her coalition partners. Sofia Petitza now reports from Rome.
A grand welcome today in Rome. This is the first time President Zelensky has visited Italy since Russia invaded Ukraine. On his arrival, he tweeted that it was an important visit for what he said was the approaching victory against Russia. And it was a packed agenda. First, a private meeting with his counterpart, the Italian President Sergio Mattarella.
First of all, I'm here to thank all of Italian society. Unfortunately, I do not have time to shake hands with everyone, to hug them, for the great support Italy has provided to Ukraine.
Then a working lunch with Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Her message: the conflict would only end when Russia withdrew from all of Ukraine. But Italy is a country that, historically, has strong ties with Russia, and some members of Meloni's government are not so keen on sending weapons to Kyiv. Silvio Berlusconi is part of the governing coalition and an old friend of Vladimir Putin's. He blames Mr. Zelensky for the war. After a meeting with the Prime Minister, a private audience with the head of the Catholic Church. This is the first time that President Zelensky and Pope Francis meet since Russia invaded Ukraine last year. The Pope has called for peace in Ukraine time and again. And even though he does not take political sides, this meeting is very symbolic. At the end of the 40-minute private meeting, the Vatican said the Pope had assured the President of his constant prayers for peace. On Sunday, Mr. Zelensky will travel to Berlin, with Germany announcing its biggest military aid package for Kyiv yet, worth more than £2 billion. As Ukraine prepares for a counter-offensive against Russia, this diplomatic effort is more important than ever. Sofia Bettiza, BBC News, Rome.
In Turkey, voters go to the polls in the next few hours in crucial elections, which could see the end of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's long rule. He has said he will accept the outcome of the election amid concerns that he might try to hang on to power if he is defeated. From Ankara, our senior international correspondent Ola Gerin sent this report.
Going wild for Erdogan. Supporters flocked to his final rally in Istanbul. Segregated as usual. They were treated to a sing-along by their leader. To many here, his family. I call him Dad, says Daria. We call him the boss. My son calls him Grandpa. But some here don't see a softer side. Güler says her friends blocked her on Facebook because she supports him. He's Turkey's strongman, combative, street smart, wading into conflicts overseas, curbing freedoms at home. This new warship, the TCG Anadolu, was put on display during the election campaign. President Erdogan's Turkey is a regional heavyweight, too big to ignore, and that goes down well with many here. For many Turks, this ship is a source of pride. For President Erdogan, it's a projection of power, strength, authority, the kind of picture he wants to show come election time. The truth is, the Turkish leader is in the fight of his life to survive. And here, the man who could replace him, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, heading for the mausoleum of Turkey's secular founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. He follows in his footsteps. At his final rally in Ankara, in driving rain, he wore a bulletproof vest concealed beneath his suit. On stage, heavily armed guards. It's tense here as election day looms. Are you going to change the destiny of Turkey? Promise, he says. Kılıçdaroğlu is vowing to bring democracy, freedom, a new beginning. It's 100 years since Atatürk founded the Turkish Republic. Which way will the country go next? Orla Gerin, BBC News, Ankara.
Here, rail passengers, including people trying to get to the Eurovision Song Contest, have faced severe disruption with a strike by members of the RMT union in their long-running dispute over pay and conditions. The industrial action affected 14 different train operators, with many running only limited services. The union has called for a summit with ministers to negotiate a way out of the dispute. Football now, and Southampton have been relegated from the Premier League. Their 11-year stay in the top flight ended with a 2-0 defeat to Fulham. So next season they'll be playing in the Championship. Several other clubs are also facing the drop and fighting very hard to avoid it, as Ben Croucher now reports.
It's taken until May, but the Saints' march has finally ended. Given a season of struggles, it's no surprise, but ask anyone in St Mary's, it still hurts. In 11 years, Southampton will be a Championship team.
From the first day of pre-season right until now, you can feel that the standards of the club and everything slipped away, and that's ultimately why we are where we are now.
3 clear of the relegation zone and Leeds with 2 to play. They too had to come from behind against Newcastle. Rasmus Christensen's equaliser with a handy nick from Kieran Trippier, and just a flicker of light against the darkness of the drop. Ben Croucher, BBC News.
Now, before we go, here's a quick look at what's coming up for you on Sunday with Laura Koonsberg.
It's been a grumpy week for the government, with Tory noises off and warnings that higher prices could last longer. So we'll ask in the morning, how much longer could the tricky times last? And hopefully, the morning after the night before, a little treat from Liverpool. Hope to see you at 9 bright and early, right here on BBC One.
Yes, do join Laura in a few hours' time. That's all from me and the very late team here tonight. Sleep well.